right 2 lanes to keep right.
Hey friends, welcome back or welcome aboard. You're watching Prepare to Go There. It's the most overlooked and underrated coaching conversation on the internet. And that's my opinion, but I'm just convinced that our future deserves our focus today. And that's why I've had so much fun going on this extended coaching journey with friends and leaders alike who want to just practice self-leadership and staying focused on the future. Let me ask you a question. Is your future on the front burner? Because that's where it belongs and that's where we're going to keep it. I'm looking forward to jump in today because there is so much gold waiting for us. Leadership gold, productivity gold. I'm super excited about this conversation. And so welcome back to the Future Frontier. We're going to be really just continuing the conversation we've had all week, which is how do we leverage writing-based strategies to lead ourselves, stay focused on the future, and really bring our best to the different fronts of our life? And so I brought my brother in. I'm so excited that he is here. He is a pastor. He is a producer. He writes books. He builds systems. I mean, he's done so much, and I love him so much. And I just wanted to just have some fun talking about productivity. I'm sure we're going to geek out on Evernote and whatever else. But before I get too deep into the self-leadership talk with him, I want to say thank you to everyone who is watching. And if you're watching live, go ahead and say hi in the chat and drop in your questions as well. And so let me bring my brother in right away and say what's up.
How's
Here we
it
go,
going?
man.
Everybody
awesome.
good? Thanks for having me, man. I really appreciate this. This is great.
No, thank you so much. Had to reschedule with Xavier, and you are a hero for jumping in. And I know that this conversation is important to you because self-leadership is the secret sauce that keeps your world going.
Yeah.
And so we're going to be talking about that. But before that, I want to kind of pull everybody into the why behind this conversation. You know, it's my experience and observation that most people don't know how to lead others into a better future simply because they don't know how to lead themselves there first. And so self-leadership is the theme of this whole video podcast because we believe that leadership is going to be more important in the future, not less. And we're going to need more leaders, not fewer. And so we want to get you ready to go for it. And so Prepare to Go There is that daily conversation. It's been crazy. We're on episode 70 already.
Yeah.
And here we are still working on ourselves and staying focused practically on the future and then getting the tactics to lead ourselves there day by day. And so Andrew, I would love for you just to introduce yourself to those that may not know you yet, or just kind of catch us up. I know that you have so many amazing projects and amazing, future frontiers of your own. And so just kind of give a little intro and then we'll dive into the conversation today.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for the invite. I'm always happy to do anything, especially when it's for you. And I love that you have leveled up on your content game. It's been a long time coming, and to see it in its fruitfulness is just really, really amazing. But for those who might not know a little bit about me, my name's Andrew. I'm married to a beautiful woman named Amanda, and we got 2 very energetic boys that keep us very, very busy here in outside of Houston. And I will tell you, I love all things ministry. It's my heart, it's my passion, but more than that, I just love all things people. And yeah, there's my bride, my hot tamale. Hey, baby. And those are our boys, and they are full of energy. So I think that, I think just for where we are, I think we would agree, and we might even get into this just from a leadership standpoint. You're only as strong as your inner world, and I think the pandemic taught us a lot of that. Before there's kind of like, it's as intense as it sounds. Obviously not to this degree, but like you talk about like BC and AD. Well, I think for us, it's like pre-pandemic, post-pandemic, and the leaders who came out on top are the ones who I believe slowed down long enough to recognize the different shift, to recognize that life could look different, life could be different, and found a way to do it. So the secret sauce to all of that, the anchor next to our relationship in our faith, is the ability to lead ourselves. And I heard a quote just yesterday on another podcast that forgive me, I forget who said it, but it was basically along the lines of healthy leaders are the ones that last, right? And if you have a lot of
That's
people,
good.
if you really want to be in it for the long run, for the long haul, being raised around ministry, we saw a lot of people get very successful and then crash and burn, and a lot of people who had so much potential and never did anything with it. I don't want to be on either side of that spectrum. So I think self-leadership, leading yourself, is huge when it comes to making sure that I'm the most efficient possible. And so that's what we do right now. We're enjoying life, we're enjoying family, and on the side, we're spinning up projects here and there. And looking forward to talking about more of that in the future.
Absolutely. And well, I just am so grateful just to see your example, to learn with you. And when did you realize how important self-leadership was? And was it a moment? Was it gradual? Was it in stages? For me, it kind of hit like a ton of bricks. And I love kind of hearing from other people and their stories, because I think a lot of the conversation is on the public side of leadership.
Sure.
And like you mentioned, you have to have that inner world well-oriented as well. And so just kind of give us some hope and give us some help. How do we get started?
Yeah, if you feel like your life is completely out of control and you can't keep up and you're always doing everybody else's stuff, you're our audience. I mean, I think that comes down to, it's not in a selfish way. It's not in an understanding of, hey, we're trying to take away from other people. But for me, just kind of my story in it, early on in college, I was taking classes in college, but I was also working full time. And as a chronic visionary, we always tend to work harder, push harder, drive harder. So it wasn't just that I was working, it was that like I was building vision at that time. And I found myself getting to a place to where I loved being outside of the house, but then coming home was just miserable, because I came home to nothing, literally. In just my soul was empty, my time was empty. Like I had zero energy to do laundry or wash dishes or just all the practical things. And I realized that was kind of when I got turned on to like, how do people, I'd hear all these like amazing TED Talks and different people of like, these people are like, oh, I run 7 nonprofits and I'm working on my 4th book. And I'm like, that's the dream. Like, how do you do that? And as most people do, I fell into the misconception that, well, if you push harder and if you expand your time, if you manage your time, then you'll actually get to a good spot. When I got really turned on to just kind of the whole productivity space, it was like my eyes had seen this newfound way of living, but I had no idea how to practically work it out. So I tried to clone a bunch of people, copy a lot of people's tactics, listen to a ton of podcasts, ton of books, even went and had dinner with a random Canadian blogger at one point to just learn. Like it was just crazy. I was just in all things productivity and efficiency. And then it finally clicked, and I realized that with efficiency and with productivity and really leading yourself had to do more with one, recognizing the season that you're in just your life stage, and then two, once you build that plan, sticking to it. And
Yes.
there's a discipline aspect to self leadership, right? It's not just, oh yeah, this is what it's gonna do, but then I'm in the moment and, oh, this feels different, this feels better, I'm gonna go do this instead. And it doesn't work that way. Like, you have to be in a self, you're making a pre-commitment in the future, right, to yourself.
Yes.
And total fan. So my 2-year-old loves the Pixar movie Meet the Robinsons, right? So he loves it, calls it the dinosaur movie. Haven't figured out why yet, because there's like one scene with the dinosaur, it otherwise has nothing to do with it. But it's literally all about this little kid who goes to the future and meets his adult self one day, and then has to like reverse engineer his lifestyle on how to do that. And I thought, how important is it for us as not just leaders, just start with people, like, just as a human being, as a husband, as a dad, as a nice person, someone who's not always like, man, every time I get around that person, they're just stressed and they're busy and they become snappy and they're just a jerk. Like, nobody wants to hang out with that kind of person, right? So I think finding that self leadership, it really does become an anchor, not only for your time and your energy, but really for your soul too. And you can get to a place to say, like, okay, I can focus on what really matters. And I think the pandemic woke a lot of people up to that, and kind of realizing, like, whoa, things are way out of whack. And I lost my identity because I lost what I was doing, right? And self-leadership is so much more than that. So yeah, we can go down any rabbit hole you want to after that one.
That's so good, man. And I agree. Like, you want to go harder. And so you get into hustle culture. And then you realize, oh, wow, I have to keep this up a few decades.
Yeah,
So then it goes into the sustainability,
sure.
Conversation and culture. And then you just realize, oh, wow, productivity is an inside job. Leadership is an inside job.
100%.
And like you were saying, knowing the seasons that you're in, and then seeing how your life story is, changing and growing and multiplying in so many wonderful and unexpected ways. And so that is a joy. It's a crazy ride. And I just thank you, man, for just being a long haul leader and doing the work that it takes to, work on yourself. We don't normally think of ourselves as the project, but it can be that way. You put the same excitement and energy into your health, put it into your relationships, put it into your worldview. And that's when you invest in yourself, you can never go wrong with that.
And that was the thing for when Amanda and I first got married. I was really active on social media, and I was out there, and I had worked really hard on kind of like building platforms, and just because I loved it, it was something, and I felt like I had a real true natural gift for it. And then in the process of it, we got pregnant with our first, and had some medical things that kind of kept us in the hospital quite a bit, and I just kind of kept, when are you going to get back on? When are you going to get back on? I just kind of kept pushing it. And I found that the more I pushed it, the more I discovered new areas of myself. And I think that with everything we're talking about, we're now at this spot of going, like, man, when you anchor your life, it actually increases your capacity, not only to lead, but to live, to truly be in a place to where your mornings, your afternoons, your evenings, you're not dreading them, because you're living them. You're not just surviving them. Like, you're truly, like, you're in it, and to be able to do that, it doesn't mean that I'm not ever going to get back on social again. It might not, but it's not the focus anymore, right? It becomes like, there's so much more to this God-given life that he has given us the opportunity to say, what do you want to do? Go do it, And I think that's just such a cool kind of extra benefit that we don't originally like think, oh, I'm going to get productive. It's like, No, are you kidding me? Like getting productive and sticking, your feet in the ground and getting planted, if you would. I mean, even all the preaching analogies we could go off there, like it really does bring the most fruit. It really, really does. And it's different than what's natural, right? Our natural tendencies. But yeah, I think it's the rhythm that kind of helps us keep things going.
Man, so good. That's so good, man. So I want to just pull you into the conversation that I've been, sparking this week, and just thinking about writing
Yeah.
as a process that we can use to leverage self leadership and productivity. And so I'm going to kind of put the big idea on the board here, and then we can kind of riff off of that a bit. Most people think of writing for just their projects, oh, I have to write an email, or I'm going to write a book, or I'm going to write a whatever. But there's actually a lot of value in writing itself as a process to make discoveries, make decisions. That's journaling, or a process to leverage your time. That's planning to, support your teams. That's productivity. Writing helps us actually stay in the future, because it's easy to show up and talk about something in the moment, but
Right.
writing requires us to think about it and to plan it and to visualize the steps, and then to organize the thoughts, and prepare things. And so I've found personally, because I've always been creative and even lean prophetic, and so very visual guy. But when I realized that writing was, for me, it was a self leadership tool that
Yeah.
I could use to actually be more organized and to be kind to the people that were working with me. I felt like I kind of hit a momentum in that. So can you just kind of talk about how you just kind of build your life with those written tools, those written
Yeah.
tactics? I'm sure you have a morning routine. I'm sure you have some
Absolutely.
sort of weekly planning session. I'm sure
Totally.
you have, you're really the mastermind behind systems and process and standard operating procedures. And so just kind of teach us, why can't we, just show up and go for it? Why is writing so important to help us be organized and keep our teams mobilized?
Yeah. I think it comes down to you can get something done or you can get it right, but you can't do both. Okay. And it's like if you get it done, you might be naturally, creative enough, have enough charisma to just like pull it off the cuff and go for it and just wing it and coast. That's great. But then you're going to get in a rhythm and a habit of doing everything like that. Trust me, I know because I did it. But when you focus yourself long enough to say, okay, no, I want to get it right, and I'm gonna get it right the first time. Like there's no second, third, fourth when it comes to some of these things. I don't want to have to go back. Writing is by far the greatest processing tool I believe that exists. And I mean, really, if you think about it, if you from a believer's, a faith standpoint, why did he choose the written word? He
Yeah.
chose word. The words are vehicles to the future, right?
Mm-hmm.
Words are things that allow us to create, but also explain, also to understand, also to elaborate. There's so many different things that happens with just words alone. I mean, I can only imagine the writers of the New Testament are just going for it, inspired by the Holy Spirit, and be like, well, that's good. Check this out. Like, I'm sure that stuff was just coming out of them because they realize that as you're writing, you're processing, and I believe you're connecting with some of the deepest levels within you, that it is. So from a practical standpoint, yes, I write every single day. Every single day.
Mm-hmm.
When I wake up, I'm writing, and before I go to bed, I'm writing. And that doesn't mean that we're sitting down and going novels of words, but I have two things that I typically will write that I'll give to the audience today. I start every morning with what I call morning messages, and the first one goes to Amanda. She has gotten a message almost every single day for the past 4 years. And it's a verbal
Wow.
processing message, you know, in the on the iPhone screen. It pretty much takes up the entire, not, you know, the length of the screen. And it's my way to process to her. It's my way to speak life into her, to speak things over her, to, hey, I'm nervous about this today, or I've got this call, or man, wouldn't it be great? Ooh, tonight we're going hard on Halo Top, like, or just whatever it might be, you know. But I think that just processing that out, I do a morning message, and then I do what I call morning mentions, and those are mine. Those are for me only, and that's just kind of whatever I'm feeling or whatever I'm thinking or whatever I want to process externally. And sometimes it's out of those morning mentions that turn into, wow, that could be a chapter for a book one day, or that could
That's
be
it.
an
That's
article
it.
for da 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 da, you know. And it kind of finds its own perspective, and it kind of takes a life of its own. And then I'm casually writing stuff throughout the entire day. There's moments where if I feel like, man, the Todoist is staring me in the face and I have so much there, you know, I will pause on that, take a quick walk around the neighborhood, take the boys, throw them in the wagon, let's drive around, and just capture a couple of one sentence summaries of just, why didn't that work? What happened? You know, I love your fashion mantra of celebrate and evaluate. I think that's the greatest thing that you can do, and going forth. And I think even to writing, not only necessarily in kind of the creative format that we're talking about here, but even just capturing statistically, you know, numbers, names. There's a buddy of mine up in Washington that we're going back for, a great youth pastor, and he's going, and he was super pumped because he had this idea. He stepped out in faith to do it, and the first time he did it, he had 5 kids show up. I was like, man, that's great. Then a week later, he comes back and he goes, 15 kids. We had to get 10 pizzas for 15 kids. And I'm like, that's great. And I told him, I said, start a spreadsheet, because if you start tracking this stuff, you're writing, you're putting things down,
Yes.
but it's a
Yes.
memorial to what has
Yeah.
happened in your life. You know, tracking workouts. Right now we're tracking macros. We're writing down everything. I think when you write it, it's concrete for your creativity, right? It
Mhm.
takes your creativity and it throws it out on paper. It doesn't have to be perfect, but it formalizes it in a way. It doesn't mean you're not going to go bust up
Yes.
the concrete later. It formalizes it in a way that says, okay, when I'm done, when I'm finished with this process, that thing that was just kind of swimming around, I can stare at it, I can give it handlebars, I can move forward with it, and I can see some really great things take place. So yeah, I'm a huge writing fan, and I'm currently finishing up my first full feature as a book, which
Nice.
I'm really pumped about. And so I'm in that vein right now. Like, there's times to write, there's places, there's playlists, there's certain playlists I listen to when I write. There's I got the little tip I heard on a Mark Batterson podcast, where he takes off his shoes every time he goes to write, because he realizes that it's a holy ground, it's a holy experience. And he just kind of took
It's
some of
good.
those narratives from the Old Testament and paired together. I was like, that's a great idea. I'm gonna try it. I didn't really feel much more inspired, but hey, it was cool. And I get to try it out, get creative. So I think writing gives you, your soul and your conscious, a voice you didn't know you had. And
Mm.
I think that there are times when, even as Amanda, when she'll write out, posts or something, and I'll read something like, man, this is really good stuff. Where'd this come from? And it's like, it just kind of came out. And I think that's the beautiful thing about it, is like, when you unleash it, it'll just come. But you got to have a rhythm. You got to be disciplined with it, and recognize that when you're sitting down to write, you're writing for a purpose. You're not just like in, la la land, just trying to pull stuff out of thin air. So yeah, I'm a
It's
big
so
writer.
good. Man, so good. I love how you said that writing words becomes a vehicle to the future, that it helps you to visualize what's important and what's possible,
Yeah.
and then to reverse engineer it and to say, no, I can actually like go in that direction.
Yeah.
And so I want you to, if you feel comfortable, share as much as you can about that big goal that you had to go visit every state in the US. That was an amazing story. It was an amazing milestone. I was blown away, and
I was too.
it took it took a long time,
It did.
to pull it off. And I feel like writing just kind of kept you focused on that, or at
Absolutely.
least whether it was tracking or just putting in those timestamps like you mentioned. But
Absolutely.
just kind of share a little bit about that, because I
Yeah,
think that's so
so
cool.
really brief story. So, growing up, our dad traveled a lot. He was an itinerant minister, so he would go to a lot of these different churches and preach, and every so often we'd get to go with him and travel around to different states. And so by the time I was like 12, 13, 14, I recognized, like, man, we've been trucking around the country pretty good. We've been to Louisiana, we've been to California, some of these different states. And by the time I was 14 or 15, I just had this like crazy wild goal of like, man, it would be really, really cool to go to every single state in the United States, domestically, by the time I'm 30. And I don't know why 30, it just kind of happened. It just kind of was there. I just kind of, on dartboard and just went for it. And so then about 21, 22, 23, naturally life, it just kind of started, and I started realizing, okay, I've got a career and I got money in the bank now, and I can do some traveling, and I started traveling to these different places, and I would turn it into what I call a Jesus trip. And I've blogged about this, podcasted about it. You can go get more of the details on it. But ultimately, it became a trip where I would go and find solitude, even if it was in a noisy coffee shop. And I would have questions that I would ask myself, for self-reflection, self-leadership, reverse engineering, all the stuff we're talking about. And I would go to a state, find a coffee shop in that city, and write. And then I would do random things on the side, and it turned into one of the most life-forming vehicles of not only my faith, but I think of my leadership too, and just my lifestyle of just, hey, what am I proud of, what am I not proud of, and what do I need to change. So yeah, I would always go in with questions to answer, and those questions might take 3-4 days to answer, because it might take reflection, it might take thought, it might take understanding of, like, okay, prayer, and what does scripture say about that, and just kind of really digging deep. It was deep work. There's no doubt about it. It was absolutely deep work. And I would open up Evernote and I'd start writing away. And then I would just kind of always kind of come home with sometime your famous quote, gratitude is the best souvenir. And I think that is something that I would always come home with, is just gratitude to the words that were on the page, vision for the future, vision for the team that I was leading at the moment, vision for the project. And sometimes I love to drive. My biggest endeavor was 6 states in 6 days. It was 1,900
Woo!
miles, and
Wow.
it was crazy. It was a lot of fun. You don't go to Nebraska on purpose, and so, like, you have to make it intentional in some way. And I really enjoyed writing in that season. And sometimes it might start as a voice memo to verbally process something, and then you go back and listen to that voice memo. I listened to a voice memo the other day that I did on January 1st of this year about the book that I'm currently writing, and I went back and re-listened to it, and I'm looking at my outline, I'm looking at my chapters. Am I still on track? Because out of the abundance of your heart, your mouth speaks, right? So it's like the vision comes from your heart, but the processing comes with your hands and the writing, and expands that. So you do kind of have to have a little bit of the word side of just what you're speaking, but also the writing side. So yeah, man, those trips were amazing. I really enjoyed the travel. And now the fun thing is, which I get to do for the rest of my life, is take my amazing wife and our boys to all these places, and relive, what Jesus was saying, what I was doing, processing all those things, and replacing those memories with even greater ones with my family, and to be able to
Yeah.
parallel those writings from, man, I remember, the Holy Spirit said this in that time, that day. So yeah, big fan of it. And it was a hairy, audacious goal. I almost missed it, but I thankfully, about 30 days before I turned 31, so I was still 30, but I checked off the last one on the list, which was Alaska, and it was
Wow.
awesome. It was so cool.
That is so epic. And, it's a perfect case study for what a Future Friday is.
Yeah.
A Future Friday is the idea you've got to get away to stay ahead.
Yep.
And the more we get away, then the more the team can get ahead, because one, we're getting out of their way, and two, we're coming back with, a more rested, a more centered version of ourselves to give and serve and lead with. And for you to go take those field trips to the future,
Yeah.
you had an intention, you wrote it down, you stuck with it, you got there, and now you're having these deep work sessions as you're actually processing your approach to life, your philosophy, your faith, your leadership. And like you said, it's a part of you now. It's something that you get to live out because you put all that in. And so it's an inspiration to me.
I think too, and I appreciate it. Sometimes I think too, don't hype yourself up too much when you get into this writing stuff. Sometimes I'd walk away with like a single page, and then Peter would send me something like, "Hey, dude, check this out. I wrote this." And it's like 17 pages of like perfectly formatted, stuff. Sometimes it's just chicken scratch, on a page.
Sure. Yeah.
But it does something. But one thing that you mentioned about, the getting away thing, why is this important? I just recently kind of did this too. And so if anyone else has already done this, like, kudos on you. You're cooler than me. But, we always were kind of taught, being raised, that there was kind of this sequential pattern to Jesus's ministry. And he would do ministry, and then he would have a moment with the team, and then he would get away and pray. And that cycle and that rhythm is very, very, it's found multiple times throughout scripture. But what I noticed recently, and what's kind of really been speaking to me, is that I think that in Jesus's heart, though, it was actually a flipped process. I think that he saw it as, no, I have to go away and pray to fill up, to be ready for what I'm going to give. And then I'm going to debrief with the team after that, right? So like that getting away, or that getting ahead, I mean, for me, it looks like 4:30 in the morning, in this season of my life. For others, it might look like the night before. I think there's just something about saying, okay, who am I responsible to? And then who am I responsible for? And those are two different categories, right? And you can't get those mixed up. And in my error, I sometimes have spent too much time being responsible for people that I've neglected the people I'm responsible to. And that's not good. So you have to really make sure that your systems are in check enough that keep you in a consistency, that your priorities are in line, your values are in line, your work ethic is in line, you're actually meeting the deadline. If you're starting every email with, "I'm sorry for the delay," you've got issues, right? Like you've got to really work through some things. And there's great ways that can help us do that through technology and teams and people and all kinds of stuff. So yeah, I think staying ahead starts by getting away, for sure. Yeah.
So good. Okay, so we're going to get into some of the geeky productivity stuff. I want to pick your brain about Evernote. I want to pick your brain about how you're integrating different apps and different systems, or are you kind of like a one app to rule them all kind of guy? Or we'll kind of talk about that. And I want to give a call to action. If you're tracking with us, live in this conversation, go ahead and drop your questions. If you have any questions to Andrew about self-leadership, productivity, or any of the things we've been talking about here. But we're both power users for Evernote. We hung on through the dip and
the dark ages.
We made it. We're on the other side. Are you pleased with where Evernote is right now?
I am.
Yeah, me too.
I'm still hopeful for the future.
Yeah, me too.
I am. I think I realized Amanda has just weathered so much of my nerdiness that it's been a beautiful process for even just me to become aware of. She came out a couple of months ago and she's like, "What are you watching?" And I said, "There's a podcast with the CEO of Evernote."
Yeah.
She was like, "Bro,
all those behind the scenes got me, man.
You've got issues." I was like, "You don't understand. Like, this is a big deal, you know." And I think Evernote's been around for a long time. Obviously, it's been long proven, the OG of note takers. And I think that the reason people kind of misunderstood Evernote at the beginning was because you could do so much with it. It was like a blank canvas, and people were used to the Microsoft Word days where this is how you do this and this is how you do that, you know. And there's plenty of other players in the field. We're just deeply invested.
I know,
because of the amount of content that are there. And there's still days where I get shiny toy syndrome, and I'm just like, well, maybe, you know. but I've definitely found my rhythm. I definitely love what they're doing. I love where they're going, and I feel like it's important. So yeah, this is going to be slippery slope, dangerous, however far you want to get into this conversation, because this can go many ways.
When they dropped the home dashboard, I was like, okay, here we go. We finally, we're picking up momentum. Which features do you use probably the most?
So we're kind of going into some of the integrations as well too. I think there's certain things that I think Evernote is really great at, and then there's other things that I think they could be better at for sure. And the one thing that I think they could be a little bit better at is quick capture and grabbing things instantly. So I think
particularly on the desktop, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
So for those of people who don't, I would give two great resources out there on the internet that have really been important to me. One is the Keep Productive YouTube channel. They have done a phenomenal job of just software reviews and updates and kind of keeping like productivity stuff in play. And number two was a guy by the name of Tiago Forte, who created the Second Brain course, and just this idea that, like, your life kind of needs a second brain for all of the digital things that are happening in your world. And there's a lot of other, other resources that we could give. But I think that for me, Evernote was so strong because I was able to create a system customly that worked with the way that I work, right? Or the way that I think.
Yes.
And
that's so important.
Through a setup, I mean, Evernote was hashtagging before it was ever hashtagging was a thing, like, with their tags and their folders and structures and all those deals. So I think that, for me, I love the complexity of Evernote, but I also love the simplicity of Evernote, in that, like, it doesn't matter what it is. If you want to talk about, it kind of just became the answer to a lot of questions, like, oh, well, Evernote could do that. And I think that's what I'm excited about in the future. I mean, even honestly, if we're just being real, even with all the stuff they're doing with the tasks and stuff, I'm starting to get to a place to, like, man, do I really need to go as hard on some of these tasks things? And you have there's other great apps out there, to name. Notion's obviously catching up a ton of storm, and a lot of great momentum there. But I think I found where I'm comfortable. I know how to use the app. It works really well, and it's very long term. And I think there was a couple of big rocks that were important to me. Security was at the top of that list. usability. Sometimes an app works really great on the desktop, but it doesn't work great on the phone. That was problematic. Evernote has really solved all those issues. So it was very, very versatile and mobile friendly. And the search recognition, from scanning PDFs to just going paperless, and it's pretty exciting. Like, I mean, Amanda knows, like, if she hands me a receipt, she knows I'm trying to put it in Evernote. Like, it's a hub for life. And I agree, the home dashboard concept just was like, yes, this is great. So,
I heard somebody say that they didn't want to trade a physical mess for a digital mess. And everybody was so excited about going paperless, and you can just capture everything and put it in, and you've got all this space. Now we're talking terabytes. And so just dump everything into the cloud and it's all good. But you still want that knowledge to be usable. You still want that knowledge to be organized. You still want all that, the pictures, the videos, the clips, the references, the receipts, all that stuff. It still has to be oriented. And so we're not just talking about a techie thing. We're talking about your life. We're talking about, are you living in an organized way?
It's a kind of a bad habit. I got to watch it carefully, but anyone who knows me knows that I love, like, domain real estate. Anytime you have a domain, peterburchfield.com or whatever, that is digital real estate, in the world. And I just, if I find a good one, man, I grab it. I pull it up. It's like one thing that I did, another little kind of pro tip in, there's another integration app that I use called Rebrandly. Rebrandly is an app that gives you the ability to use shorter domains to get to longer domains. So Evernote, like in Evernote, if you're not familiar with it, you can create links and kind of share, like, specific pieces of content based off that link. And so for me, I started thinking, I was like, well, you know what? There's certain areas or certain links that I'm trying to get to frequently, but I don't want to have to remember an entire long link. So I went out and purchased a shorter link, and we'll just say, 123.com as an example. And then I can just create single words after that to remember. So it might be, we'll use the receipt concept, receipts. So if I just go to 123.com receipts, it takes me to an Evernote that has kind of a table of contents approach to every receipt that I've done in the past month or whatever, or based off certain tags, or, you can get kind of geeky on how you set everything up. But that has been really great, because now I'm only remembering words, not actually like, what notebook did I put that in? What tag does that have? Like, no, I know that if I want photos of the boys,
that's very interesting.
I can just go through it. I'm big on links. I think links are great. The only bad thing about a link is a broken one, right? But otherwise, it is the path that'll get you where you need to go. And Evernote made it really positive, where you can backlink and even merge and create table of contents off of a list. So, like, one thing that I did, I don't know, do you use that feature where you compile notes into, like, a thing? So one thing that I did was, like, I would have, like, the top 25, like, talks that I'm doing as a communicator, whether it's a leadership meeting or a Sunday service, whatever it might be. And I literally, instead of going through and digging for all of my message notes, I would just put them all together in one single Evernote, and then I could link to them almost like a website and just hyperlink back over. And it was really, really cool. I think their new underrated tip on connecting your calendar to Evernote. I think that's going to be a pretty big deal too. So yeah, it's a sharp tool, man. Sharp tool indeed.
Man, that is so interesting. I'm going to have to check that out. What was that thing that gives you the shorter links?
Rebrandly. I don't know the URL exactly, but there's a couple of, it's kind of like, if you remember Bitly, remember back on the Twitter days and everyone was throwing out Bitly links. Well, Rebrandly gives you the ability to use your own. So you can get something really, really short that fits your life. And I think that's important too. It's one thing to use, but you're creating a digital home, like
Yeah,
you wouldn't just sit down. I mean, you put intentionality into the pictures and the chairs, and why would you not do that in your own space digitally as well?
totally.
If you're a knowledge worker and you're spending a lot of time there, I mean, yeah, take the time and do it right and get it the way you want it, because you're gonna live there for a while. And what's nice is that when you have a request, like if, for example, I there was a dear friend of mine, Stephen Hale. Shout out to Stephen Hale, who, when we found out we were pregnant, he sent me this massive email and it was called "Dude, You're Gonna Be a Dad," and it was all these tips and things that I would have never in a million years thought of. And I was like, "That's so brilliant! It's so creative. I'm going to generalize that and put that on my link." So it's in Evernote. And anytime I hear of news of someone, hey, guess so and so's pregnant, awesome, I send them that link, and they can hit that link and get to that specific Evernote whenever they want to, and see all the links and all the references and all that kind of stuff. And I don't have to remember, oh yeah, I'll email that to you, or oh yeah, I'll do that. Like, I know the URL, I got it saved, off it goes. And it's very, very useful. Rebrandly.
That's very good, man. I think links are overlooked, and that is a kind of a secret weapon for keeping all of your progress connected,
Yes.
with backlinking, and then you can kind of create your own map. Like, I'm sure you've incorporated this with your book, which we want to hear about. But like, I have one doc, like let's say I'm writing this content for the week. I have one content giving me the overview, and I've got all the titles and the big ideas kind of structure wise. And then I can link that to other notes that are specifically, for that content or for that installment. And then you can put other links in that. And so now it's almost kind of like you're creating all these little trap doors to be moving much faster through your docs.
Well, I think you have to find too what works your thinking style. The other two apps that we would mention too, one would be Notion. I think it's a very strong candidate for this kind of stuff. But another one that's catching steam is called Rome Research, and there's a lot of that, what you're just talking about there. Bookmark, backlinks and all that kind of stuff. And then you look at it and you're like, whoa. Now, I'm not a fan of getting into all of that. I'm a big mind mapper. I enjoy the mind mapping process, and I typically start there. But you have to find what works for you. And just because we're over here screaming and waving the Evernote flag doesn't mean that that's what you need. If Apple Notes just came out with some huge updates that I think are really valuable, and I remember when I tell Amanda, like, you need to get an Evernote and stuff. She's like, I'm good with notes, like, and it's like, and it works for her. Like, she gets it. It's simple. She's got it working.
This is pretty funny, but after I did my video podcast on journaling, Sarah Joy has re-downloaded Evernote. So that is a big win.
That's a win.
So I don't know if you want some, some leverage there for Amanda.
I'm gonna send it over to Amanda. Say, babe,
Sarah Joy's doing it now. Maybe y'all could, have some shared notebooks or something. But it's not just about being organized. This is about leading yourself.
Sure.
And when you feel organized, you feel on top of the world. And when you feel cluttered and you can't get clear and you can't find stuff and you can't, man, that's not a good feeling. And so we're just encouraging you, whenever you feel helpless, you think hopeless. But whenever you become helpful, that's because you are hopeful about where you're going. And so that's really good. I want to kind of pivot for a little bit. And you interact with a lot of leaders in a lot of different spaces, the faith space, the business space, a lot online, and on and on. Right now in this season, what is one or two of the biggest challenges that you are hearing about on the front lines from
Yeah.
leaders, and what strategies are you giving them? Practical, particularly, but overall, what are you hearing, and how are you resourcing them? With some strategies to help out there.
Yeah, great question. So I think it sounds funny, but it is true. I think the biggest thing that leaders have question about is vision. Is what does the future look like? Because what they thought it was going to look like, the pandemic has changed that. And so now they don't know what it's going to look like, and they don't even know how to resource it, and they don't know if it's going to work because they have no experience in it. And I really enjoyed a podcast the other day from a friend and mentor, Phil Cook, and he said, just because you have experience, that doesn't make you an expert, right? You can have experience in something, but to have expertise in a particular area, you got to really know what you're doing and who you're doing it with and all those things. So I think a lack of vision is important, and not just like, oh, I don't know what to do, but like you feel called to do something, but you don't know how that's going to unfold, right? So what I have been telling people to do is focus on the tribe that's in front of you at the moment, and that will lead to the resources around, and a lot of stuff that we're working on with New Creation Network and different things is we're finding that, okay, there's a solution out there for whatever you're trying to figure out, but just because, so-and-so is doing that doesn't mean that's what you have to do too. Your audience is different. Your context is different. Your outcomes are different. You have to really figure out, okay, what really is the end goal, and what are you truly content with, and what do you feel if there's a deep sense and calling of purpose on your life to accomplish? Okay, let's go out and do that. And I think health is a big part too. I think people are really focused on their health, not only physically, but emotionally as well, and mentally. Obviously, there's a large push in culture for mental health right now, and I think those are all great, wonderful things. You learn a lot about yourself when you start diving into health things. And I know ultimately you'll get Xavier on. He's a great guy to listen to. He knows his stuff. Like there's good things around, I think, leaders. So I would kind of put it into those three categories of, having a vision. Don't be afraid of a new vision. Don't be afraid of different vision. Don't be afraid if the original vision looks kind of the same, but very, very different too. Like embrace that. Focus on your tribe, your audience, whoever you've got in your sphere right now, the closest to you, who you're responsible to versus for, kind of some of that stuff we mentioned. And then lastly is just really finding, I totally missed my last spot. What was my last one? I had I just banked. Whatever. Just rewind. Go listen to it again.
No, that's so good about vision and about your tribe and about your health.
Health. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, health is just really locking in your health and doing what you can for what works for you, and what's making that a reality.
Man, so good. That was fire. That was worth the whole conversation, and it's all been so good. I want you to take some time and just talk about the projects you're working on right now, what you're excited about. I like to interview my future friends, and what I'm modeling to them, to everyone, is you have to keep your future on the front burner.
Absolutely.
And so many times the little things come in, and that thing we were dreaming about, talking about, praying about, it drifts to the back burner. And so just having that conversation can put it back on the front burner, and then we can begin to implement it. But tell us about New Creation Network, which is a really exciting project that you've been working on, and then tell us about the book and whatever else you want to do.
You've been gracious with your time and your platform. Yeah, two things. So, New Creation Network, I've been in media for a really, really long time, started in broadcast media, and then recognized that to do broadcast media well, you had to really be in the communication space. And then it just kind of all blurges together. So, you've got broadcast, production, and communications, and it's now just a thing. And I think we would all agree media is the language of culture. And if you speak media well, you have a chance to really be heard and be influential. And I think a lot of the times, for a lot of the particularly churches that we tend to rub shoulders with, they haven't really had a chance to get a leg up in the media space. Volunteers are always changing. They don't know how to do it. It's very difficult. So we really wanted to create something that could really help create and communicate effective media. And that's what newcreation.network is doing. So we are really, really excited about it. It's been in the building mode for about the past 3 years. And we just launched to the public. We're really, really excited about it. And really the heartbeat is just to say, whatever your media project is, we kind of do projects and packages. Those are kind of our two legs that move us forward. And projects are one-time things, and packages are ongoing campaigns, and really crafting the best way. So we're doing everything that we can to be effective. That's the goal. That's the heart. And kind of like we said, just because someone's got a $50,000 budget on Facebook ads doesn't mean you have to have that. You could put $5 on Facebook ads and watch really, really great things happen. So I think to work with partners and to work with professionals is kind of the heartbeat right now. And it's we're really excited. We really want to help people and really be a platform for content. It'll be a content platform in itself, with books and courses and all kinds of things. So I don't know. It's one thing to get there. Like, even in the future we're talking, it's one thing to get there. It's so much more fulfilling to help someone else get there too.
Yes.
Like,
yes,
you want to enjoy the view at the top. Absolutely. But
yeah,
how much more to enjoy it with somebody else. Right.
yes.
And
that's why you have to go do it yourself.
Totally.
Because you have to learn what it looks like, what it takes to get everybody else who's counting on you to get them up to that point as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. So newcreation.network, we're really excited about it. We're making media and tools affordable and easy for people to get on board with. So that's the role there.
Check it out, y'all. And then you mentioned a book. That is so cool. I know you have already written a lot of projects, but tell us about this next book you're working on.
Yeah, so the first round was kind of a just kick the tires, see what happens, and see what shakes out. And it wasn't too bad. It's still out there floating around, and it might make a resurrection appearance here in the near future on New Creation Network. But no, this one is really just a big part. It's kind of a working title, and I won't go into all of the details right now. But basically, the big idea is that if you are going to lead others well, you have to honor who has led you. And it is two sides that you have to honor the people that gave you an opportunity. They gave you a chance. That none of us deserve the platforms that we've got. None of us deserve the opportunities that we had. And really kind of understanding that with leadership, that it is a bi-directional relationship. Yes, you are giving as a leader, but oh my gosh, are you also gaining, and you're learning so much. So the whole point and the purpose of the book is to really, I really hope it's kind of a manual and a field guide for new leaders. Hey, how do you honor these people who have entrusted you with a position of leadership? And then also, hey, you're a leader. What are some gifts that you can give to the people that you're leading, so that way they're effective, they can move, they can keep going. So yeah, it's really, really cool. I got into the process, and then got connected with a guy to kind of help me with some developmental editing and stuff, and kind of like, whoa, okay, yeah, back up. And so we're kind of in this process right now, but hoping for a release in 2022, and very, very excited about it. And we'll definitely have more info about it as it comes out.
Looking forward to it, and looking forward to more rounds of you on Prepare to Go There. Where can people find you? For the people that want to work with you, where do they go?
Yeah, great question. So andrewburchfield.com is there for just basic info and some old content that's kind of get going. I'm enjoying an extended sabbatical from an online life, and really enjoying it too, I might add. But to work or do anything like that, newcreation.network's a great place to start, or anything that we got going on at the ministry with burchfield.org.
Amazing. Thank you so much, brother.
Thanks you.
I'm gonna pull you off, and man, that was so good. That was great. And I hope that this inspires you to take action. If there was something that stood out, take action, write it down, and then go right away with it. I want to get you a tool that will help you get going so you can get better. It's a free fail-proof planning guide. And really, it's going to give you a step-by-step planning process, which we all need. Andrew mentioned that, you got to get away so you can stay ahead. This is going to do that. It's going to help you think through your roles and your goals, identify which rhythms, which routines help you to keep going. And then it's going to just start laying it out in a weekly planning session approach. And it's been really helpful for me. And I've gotten some really positive feedback from other people. So I want that to be a resource to you as well. It's been a fun week. I know you're looking forward to the weekend, and I want you to make it count. If you've enjoyed this conversation, jump on the email community with us. It's Future Friday, so I'm sending out a weekly roundup today. All of the coaching conversations that we've had this week, they're going out today, so you could jump in on that. And I think that is it. This was just so much fun. I appreciate each of you and all of you listening. And remember, you're going places. That's why today matters. That's why we have to put in the work. That's why we have to treat today with respect, because it really is the seed of so much more. Stay awesome. And remember, prepare to go there.